Matthew chapter 10, we have the story of the Good Samaritan. And Jesus said a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, where he was attacked by robbers. And they stripped him of his clothes and beat him and went away, leaving him half dead. But a priest happened to be going down the same road, and when he saw the man, he passed by on the other side. So too a Levite, whenever he came to the place, saw him and passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, as he traveled, came where the man was, and when he saw him, he took pity on him. He went down to him and bandaged his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. And then he put the man on his own donkey and brought him to the inn and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and to look after him. He said, "And when I return, I will reimburse for you for whatever extra expense that you have." And then Jesus asked, "Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of a robber?" In the story, we have the priest, the Levite, and now the Samaritan. We can only assume that for the priest and the Levite, that they knew God greatly. Their minds were well formed on the things of God, on the traditions of God, and yet knowing of God was not enough now to actually do the action that God desired them to do. What is it that set the Samaritan aside from the priest and the Levite? And the text made it very clear that it was the Samaritan now that had pity on the man. That there was now an emotion, an affection that began to drive the action of this Samaritan. And we don't know where his mind was whenever it came to the things of God. We can rightly assume that he wasn't to the level of the priest or the Levite. Maybe he knew some things, no question. Maybe he didn't at all. But here's what we do know. His heart and his affection far outweighed the heart and the affection of the priest and the Levite. It's a great reminder to us. Now, especially in the culture in which we live, especially for somebody like me who grew up in the church, I can often think that my Christian faith is nothing more than a transformation of my own mind. It's just a cognitive kind of ability. And so I can have all the right answers. I can go and give the Sunday school answers of Jesus is the important thing. I can answer the theological test, all those things. But if there is no affection that drives me, if there is no heart after the things of God, a compassion that drives a compulsion toward other people, it doesn't matter the answers that I have. It doesn't matter the theological terms that I can use. It doesn't matter the debates that I can actually win. In the end, is my heart now driving an action and a belief and a behavior that is more than just a cognitive idea and concept. Where's your heart today? Obviously, it's important what we think about God in our mind. By no way am I excusing now an intentional kind of ignoring of intelligence. We need to grow in our minds, no question. But our hearts also can't lag behind. There needs to be an affection not just for God, but for the very people that God actually created. And if our affections do not now drive us to some sort of action, it really doesn't matter what you actually think about God. But the better you understand who God is, the more it should begin to transform your heart where there is a drive. As somebody who tends to lean a little bit more toward my mind than my heart, I have to be very intentional about inviting my heart into a relationship with God, to ask, what am I feeling? To make sure I'm getting my identity and my purpose from Him and not from somebody else. To be very intentional in asking other people, not just what are you thinking or what are you doing, but what are you feeling? What are your affections at this moment, and how can God transform them? And as we engage our hearts into the fullness of who God has actually called us to be, it will help in the transformation of our actions and also our minds. Make sure today that you are bringing your heart along into every activity that you do and allow God to be the centerpiece of all your affections.